Well, hello, second graders. So imagine that we're sitting on the floor right in front of our board in the art room. So we're going to do a little bit of a review. But before we do this, I got to just kind of tell you what's behind me because you're going to be seeing these kind of pictures behind me. So of course, over here, I have Jesus. Just like Jesus is the crucifix is in all of our rooms. So I wanted to have that for us in our new art room. And actually, because it's the art room, these pictures over here that you see, you guys kind of see them there? Those are actually photographs that I took. The one picture over here is actually a tree that fell down in the forest. And this is all the wood and the knots that was on the side that was visible. So when I was hiking in the mountains in Washington State in a place called Olympic National Park, it's a beautiful tree that I saw. And maybe on one of my other videos, I'll get you close to the picture. It's beautiful. And then that other beautiful one is actually a picture I took at the Como Conservatory. I think you guys have been to the Como Zoo in first grade on maybe a field trip, or maybe you've been with your family and you've been to the Como Park Conservatory. That's one of the beautiful pictures that I took while we were in the conservatory. So just kind of fun what's going to be behind me on all of our videos, just to kind of give you our new setting for our art room. So a cool thing that I can do with my my meeting right now in my videos, I'm going to actually pull up our Active Inspire as if we were actually sitting right at our computer. So right now you're actually seeing our illuminated letter manuscript, and you see me over to the side in the video, and you see then just like we're in front of our Promethean board. So let's go back a few weeks when we were sitting there and we were starting to learn about illuminated manuscripts. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and you don't have to raise your hand, but you can say the answers out loud, and maybe your parents are going to be like, why are they talking out loud to the video? So just imagine you're actually talking to me, and no, crazy, you don't have to raise your hand. You can just holler out the answer. Okay, maybe say it, don't holler it. So I'm going to ask some questions, and I want you to think about if you have the answer, okay? So the first question I have for you is, what is a manuscript? We talked about that a few weeks ago, and my 4 girls, you guys, we just did it a couple weeks ago. Remember a manuscript, maybe the hint is in the picture that's there. A manuscript is a book, right? And then illuminated, what does the word illuminated mean? What does it mean? Remember, see that gold that's on there? What happens when the sunlight strikes the gold and it reflects back? It's bright, it's illuminated, just like a candle or a light illuminates the room. So those are illuminated manuscripts. Now I want you to think back also, what were the most common illuminated manuscript 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago? What was the book that they made the most? You remember what that book was? Look at the picture again on the screen. Who's in the middle of that book? See Jesus on the cross? So of course it's the Bible. Now let's remind ourselves who made the illuminated manuscripts. So if you remember this picture that we looked at, who are these guys? Okay, look at their clothes. Look at kind of maybe the room that they're in. Remember, those are the monks, the people that have dedicated their lives to Jesus. And the monks, some of them had special jobs. They were the people that were the scribes. They actually made the copies of the Bible. Because remember, back then, you just couldn't hit print on your computer and make another Bible, print out another Bible. They had to handwrite it all with a feather and ink and a quill and did beautiful artwork. Now, remember this picture. We talked about this special room in the monasteries. Remember, that's where the monks live, in the monasteries. They live together in a community. And there's a special room in the monastery where they would make the copies of the Bible. And remember, they needed a lot of light because they didn't have electricity back then. So they had to have all the beautiful natural light from God coming in the window. So remember, that big room was called the scriptorium. So a big room where there's a lot of natural light coming in, where the monks would spend the days making copies of the Bible at their little desks like this. And you actually can see there's the quills with the feathers and their ink. And we have one of our older monks looking over the shoulder, kind of reviewing the work that the monk was doing. Now, I'm going to turn my sound off. So we're not listening to the videos, but I want us to kind of go through the videos because it's been a while, about how the structure of our medieval manuscripts were made. So remember that the manuscripts were made on parchment, which is animal skin, that they would dry and rub all of the fur off, and then they would make these pages out of parchment. And the monks would draw on them. And remember, a parchment was a big piece of paper with 4 pages. And they're folded like that. And we see the front and back. And then they're folded together and sewn together into that gathering. Remember, we looked at one of my books, and then all the gatherings get sewn together and bound into our manuscript, right? But remember, they had to put it together in a special way where page 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 weren't on one piece of paper. They were actually divided out. So just kind of a reminder on that. We're not going to watch the whole video again, just to give you a reminder of that, okay? And now remember, an illuminated manuscript had beautiful artwork in it. And they had those gold leaves where they literally would have thin layers of gold that would be on the picture itself. That's why it's called an illuminated manuscript or illuminated letters, where the letters light up with the gold. So we see these 2 beautiful pages from a book, and you see how the writing is. And remember, in the one, we have inside the letter there, do you remember who those 2 people are? Remember, it's a Bible story. Who usually do we see a woman wearing blue? In artwork in our Christian Catholic faith, who wears blue? If you just answered Mary, great job. Mary's often in blue. And it's kind of hard to see that other person, but someone's kneeling. And here's the big hint. They have wings. So who is talking to Mary in the picture? When does an angel come to Mary and make an announcement? Hint, hint, at the Annunciation, when Gabriel comes to Mary. So remember, an illuminated manuscript, behind the illuminated letters, there was often a Bible story that talked about what was going on in the page, okay? So we have that, and we have just some other beautiful pages. Again, we see this is actually King David in that one, where King David is with the Israelites when he was the king of the Israelites back in the Old Testament, and just the beautiful artwork. And zooming in, where we see more beautiful designs on letters and patterns inside of it, beautiful colors. We'll be doing all of that with our illuminated manuscript, okay? And here is one of our very famous illuminated letters in a very famous illuminated manuscript, probably the most famous in the world, called the Book of Kells. It is a book that, if you wanted to go see the book, it's in a special case in a museum. Actually, it's in a church. It's in St. Patrick's Church in Dublin, Ireland. So you have to go there. And I actually got to see this book when I was traveling in Ireland many years ago, and I got to see the beautiful artwork, okay? So again, we have our illuminated letters, kind of reviewing all of that. We see our people and our stories. This one here, there we see Mary and Gabriel again. Down here is actually Mary being assumed into heaven. When Mary dies, remember, her body gets raised into heaven, and her body's already in heaven with Jesus, because she is so special because she was the mother of Jesus. Now, what we are going to be doing, another one, what we're going to be doing is starting to draw our big letter on our piece of paper. Now, this isn't quite the pictures we're going to use, but this is the same idea, okay? So remember, our 4 girls, we already kind of started the next step, but what we're going to do now is you are going to be drawing your letter here, and I'm going to go over and I'm going to actually draw it as if we're around ourselves at the table, okay? So right now, as I'm stopping my screen, and I'm going to go see myself again, there I am. What you guys need to do right now is before we left for spring break, for those that were not in class on that last Tuesday that we were together, hopefully Mrs. Presnicki got sent home for you a piece of paper that had some patterns on it like this, okay? So hopefully you can go track that down, and that's somewhere in your house, okay? If it's not, don't worry about it, because I'm actually going to put this on one of the slides in our slideshow, and maybe you just want to use that instead of this piece of paper. So if you have this and you can track it down, go find it. It's probably easier to use this. If not, it will be right on the slides, okay? Also, hopefully Ms. Presnicki sent home a big piece of drawing paper like we normally were in class, okay? So go find that too. For my 4 girls that were with me that day, I'm trying to remember who it was, Emma, Danu, Azalea, and Sierra, you guys actually started your letter already, right? So the rest of us, this is what we're going to do today. But my 4 girls, if you want to go find that part of your picture also, okay? So now, if you don't have this piece of paper from Miss Presnicki, you just have no idea, don't worry, don't get upset. All you need to go is say, hey, Mom and Dad, where's our printer paper? Where's the paper that we use on our printer? The exact same blank piece of paper. It's just a little smaller, no big deal. So go get one of those if you can't find the paper that Miss Presnicki sent home with you 2 weeks ago. So it could have gotten lost in the house, okay? Life has kind of gotten crazy. So right now, I want you guys to go find those things. And obviously, we're about to do a drawing. So you need to track down a pencil with an eraser, okay? So go find all that stuff. And as soon as you get back then, you can actually hit the space bar or the down arrow to start the directions for what you need to do for your first step of your project today, okay? Don't do that until you've come back though with all of your supplies, okay? So at this point, go get all that stuff, come back, and then hit the down arrow for your next directions.